Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Linnett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 240. We are joined by a very special guest today who I will introduce you to in a minute. Okay, but first of all, I'm going to touch base with Mr. Peter Linnett in Bath. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm very well.
Very well.
I've been unusually busy for me.
Okay.
I'm quite tired.
You're quite tired. Okay. Well, we're sitting down and we're gonna talk to a very, very inspiring man. If you are listening on the day of release, it is the 4th of April. That's when we're going out now. So we're actually into the 4th month of 2025. And we are joined from Leicester by Mr. Pete Linnett. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent. And it's good to get Pete's on his phone and he's kind of, we just had a little bit of we've just been sorting out the muting and the videoing and all the rest of it. And we're now ready to go. And I've been, Peter Linnett and myself met Pete for the first time back in 2023, where he was competing in Britain's Disabled Strongman down in Chard in Somerset. And I have since recently got Pete's book, which I'm holding up now, which you can see there. And it is called Taking the Dis Out of Disability. And it's really Pete's life story and all of his athletic endeavours and how he's lived his life. And in a second, I'm going to pass over to Pete and get him to kind of start talking about his story. But there was a quote on the back of the book, which is so powerful. I'm reading the book and I'm inspired by it. I'm making notes as I'm reading it. But it says, "I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Linnett," which is spoiler alert, that's Pete's parents. "Your son has spina bifida. He'll never be able to walk or father children or live a normal life." And that was a quote from Dr. Taylor, February 1964, which was when Pete was born. And I think that makes you, are you 61 now, Pete?
Yes, just turned 61.
Just turned 61. Cool. So that quote kind of, I suppose one of the things we'll talk about today is the changing maybe way that people with disabilities or medical conditions, the way it used to maybe be looked at in maybe the 60s and the 70s, and maybe how things have changed or maybe not changed as much as they need to, but we'll talk about that today. But we're going to talk about your story and your life and what you've done, now at 61 years of age. So Pete, I suppose for the listeners and for us, do you want to tell us a little bit about your, I mean, obviously read the book and I'm reading the book, so I know a fair bit already, but I want to kind of, just for everyone who's listening, just tell us a little bit about your life, really, your early life, how you got into sport, training, what you've gone on to do. I mean, you've achieved so much in the last kind of 30 plus years, but we will ask questions as we go, if that's okay.
Yeah, great.
Brilliant. Kick off where you want to.
Right, well, I was born with spina bifida, as you said, so you're off to a bad start. You can't really do much exercise. There's not a lot you can't do. There's not a lot that you can do, so you just get on with life. But at the age of 14, I realised that I was overweight and I was going down one route I didn't want to go, so I started doing some exercise with weights. I was recommended to go to a Keep Fit class. So I started doing that, and I played a bit of badminton, and I had a bike, and I just started to lose a bit of weight. And the bench pressing took off. Bench pressing was ideal because you don't have to stand up or use your legs. And it's just upper body strength. So I progressed in that direction.
And do you, I mean, very quickly, if you don't mind, because people listening, and I didn't really have much of a knowledge of it before reading the book, but spina bifida, what is it? How does that affect you because obviously, like I say, the doctor, when you were born, kind of said you won't be able to walk, you won't be able to father children, you won't be able to live a normal life. obviously, as we find out going forward, you've kind of done all of those things.
Yeah,
But
proved him wrong.
proved him wrong, yeah. But what is spina bifida, and kind of how did that affect your kind of early years? I suppose, maybe up to 10 years of age, when you're a very small child.
Yeah, I mean, I was born with a severed spinal cord, so you have to be operated on straight away at birth. So I've got a quite a big scar on my lower back, and a lot of people. There's different sort of how can I put it? There's different types of spina bifida. There's some that can't walk in a wheelchair at all, and they're in a wheelchair. Some with crutches, some that can walk. Depends on the severity of it. And I could walk, but with difficulty.
Mhm. And because I think I read that you started to walk at about 4 years of age. Is that right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah. Okay. So walking probably just delayed the start of it. But did you have
Yeah,
kind of weakness in, was it more like weakness in the legs, or a lack of
yeah.
coordination, or what, how did it
Yeah, there's
manifest?
in the legs, and I've got no calves at all really. So yeah, it's just from the waist downwards, please. Your legs, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then sort of, so around 4, you actually managed to start walking. And
Apparently, yeah.
apparently, and were you able to walk a long way, or were you just able to do short kind of distance walking and get around?
Short distances,
Yeah.
and I,
Yeah.
I I vaguely remember having a bike, a three-wheel bike, obviously to try and strengthen my legs up. So I think the parents did what they could.
Mm. And what was their, I mean, what are your memories like of being a child with, spinal? Because I know that again, in the book, you kind of say that originally you were told, or your parents were told, that you wouldn't be able to go to a regular kind of school. You might have to go to a special school and that kind of thing. But you actually went to kind of a regular school with everyone
Yeah,
else, and so yeah, it seems that from quite a young age you were proving people wrong, really.
yeah. I went to local schools, which were normal. Um, I had a lot of friends, and they just took it that I got a limp. They were fine about everything.
Mm, mm. And when you started, what was the first element of, because I think when you first started going to like a fitness class, as it were, and I know you've had lots of people kind of inspire you along the way and help you, get involved in exercise and things like that. But what was your first kind of takings to exercise? Was it like kind of almost like circuit training,
It,
or what was your first introduction?
it was a well, I heard about a keep fit class at one of the schools I went, and they went once a week, and they got a barbell out, and you did like 3 sets of shoulder press, 3 sets of curls, some bench pressing, just every exercise I can do with weights. And so it just took off from there.
Mm,
At the age of, like I say, at the age of 14.
mm. And then
And
you kind of got into bodybuilding, didn't you? Or kind of that was the first intro to
yeah,
things.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I can clearly remember at the age of 15, my mum and dad bought me Education of a Bodybuilder by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I just read it from cover to cover. And I just was really inspired by that and the bodybuilding sort of thing.
Mm. I think that's how many people get into it, isn't it? I think we speak to so many people on the podcast, and that kind of, certainly people, like you say, you're 61 now, and anyone, I think, probably from the age of about 40 to 60 or 70 were kind of inspired by Arnold in that, that kind of era, that kind of 70s, 80s, that
Yeah.
whole era of training, and
And then there was Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk. He had a lot to do with it as well. Same sort of time.
yeah. So you used to watch The Incredible Hulk, or you?
Yeah,
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 yeah. Yeah, because I think we spoke to Dave Whitley, didn't we, Pete?
Yeah.
Who was massively inspired by The Incredible Hulk, and then went on to become like a performing sort of strongman and things. Um,
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny because this is reminiscent of Brooks Kubik as well, who's a similar age, I think, and he was told by he's an American guy. I mean, you might know who he is, Pete. I don't know, but he's an American guy, and he had asthma when he was a kid, so he was told to take it easy and not run and all of this sort of stuff. And he became super strong. He just said, "I'm not." He said he used to walk to the end of the hedge, and then his parents couldn't see him, and he'd round the corner and then leg it.
Yeah.
So, similar sort of thing, kind of like this
Yeah.
is going to hold you back for the rest of your life. And he was like, I'm not going to let it happen.
Yeah. When I first started, like I say, I was going once a week to a place at school, and the chap that took it, he said, I need medical report from your doctor and the go ahead from your doctor. I didn't bother with any of that. I just went.
I don't know if I should say this, but I mean, what can go wrong? You know what I mean? It's like, you might break your back. It's like, that's what I've already done that. So, what's wrong with that? It's, anyway, sorry.
I think going forwards, like so I know we'll get to it. I suppose I don't want to jump too far out of sort of chronology or chronological order or whatever it is, but you eventually you've met Arnold, haven't you?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
at the Arnold, and that's at the Arnold was that Columbus, Ohio?
Yes, but yeah, it was. I'd won the world's strongest disabled man, and you're invited to go to the Arnold, and it's a massive place, an absolutely massive place, and we were just in the right place at the right time, and he walked by us, and my son said to me, "Go on, Dad, go on, put your arm out." So I put my arm out, and he came over and shook hands with me.
Yeah, and then
I've
yeah,
met
so
him since then as well.
okay.
Last time he was here, he got a new book out. It was only 2 years ago. He got a new book out, and he was promoting it at the Albert Hall, and I think he did about 3 dates at the Albert Hall. So I got tickets to go and see it, and unbeknown to me, my son told him, or through my son, somebody told him all about me, and I was invited backstage to meet him.
Wow. Yeah, because that's the book, isn't it? It's Be Useful, I think, is the book, because
Yeah, that's it.
I've
Yeah,
read that, and someone else I know was at that at the Albert Hall anyway. But
yeah.
wow, so because and then you went backstage and met him again. Wow.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I mean, he came up to me, and my son said, "Dad," he said, "make sure you got things to say to him." I said, "Yeah, okay." And he came up to me, Arnold did, and he shook hands, and he says, "Oh yes, I know all about you." And when he said that, I just forget everything. He's saying it to me.
Well, you've given away something else now. You said your son. So at the at the start when you were born,
Yeah,
said to your parents, you'll never be able to walk or father children. So, and I know
yeah,
you're married with 2 grown-up sons now as well, aren't you?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got
So
Joshua, and he's actually got his own health club and gym in London called Thrive Personal Training.
mm,
And Harry is an event coordinator at Wimbledon. So they're both into sport massively.
wow. No, that's amazing. And so sorry, I jumped ahead there because we kind of went from you doing a few exercises in school to
Oh yeah, right, yeah,
to meeting Arnold. But so so you obviously, like you say, bench press. Now I mentioned at the start that you're 4 times world bench press champ, and I know in the book you talk about, I think it's this 200 club where you started trying to, people had to bench 200 pounds, which was like about
right, yeah,
around 90 kilos. But the bench press, like you say, you can it's I mean, everybody I'm sure who's listening knows what the bench press is, and Monday is International Bench Press Day, isn't it, in every single gym in the world, I think. But yeah, the bench press, I mean, was that something that you had a passion for, or you had a leaning towards, or you just
yeah,
had
very quickly, yeah.
a natural strength with? Yeah,
There
how did
was,
that happen?
well, there was a group of chaps that were they always used to bench press, and we were trying to get to 200 pound. I mean, we really didn't know what we were doing. We just putting weights on every week, and we didn't have peaking programs or anything. You try it one week, it didn't work, so you try it another week. and we eventually got there.
And did you find, I mean, because so for those people who know how to bench press, it's kind of, it's not it for you know, able-bodied people, I suppose. It is it's not just an upper body exercise, because you can use a lot of leg drive and you get your feet in the right position and you can transfer
right, yeah.
weight through. But for yourself, is it a pure upper body sort of strength movement, or can you get any kind of lower body drive? Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead. I was in the Paralympic squad, and you have a bench where your legs are straight. You're like lying down, if you like. Your feet aren't touching the ground, so it is purely upper body.
Mm.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, so there's no, like you say, that you see some people with this, you know, this real like arch, don't you, in their back, and they're driving through their feet, and the range of motion is reduced obviously by doing that. But like you say, if you're basically laying flat on a bench and you're sort of, your legs are strapped sort of together and to the bench, you're just purely just laying flat on the bench and using your upper body. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And what did you end up kind of, what was your biggest, what was your sort of the peak of your kind of bench pressing when you were competing and things like that?
In the Paralympic squad, I was in the Paralympic squad, and I went to a couple of world championships, and then I got as far as I could. That was leading up to Sydney 2000, and I knew I wasn't going to make the Paralympic squad to go to to Sydney. So I got as far as I can. Then I went to able-bodied bench pressing, and I won the world championships for purely for bench pressing 4 times with them.
Wow. Okay. So you were, yeah, go on, Pete. Pete's going to ask a question.
I was just going to make sure, like you said, able-bodied, right? So
yeah.
Wow. Blimey. Okay, carry on, James. Sorry.
So yeah, so you went into and this was because I think it was at a certain, like, because then you have like weight classes and things like that that you compete in, isn't it?
Yeah, so I was in the 75 kilo class, and the best I bench press was 147.5 kilos.
Wow. Okay. So you're basically kind of double body weight bench press.
Yeah.
With no leg drive really or anything. You know, it's just pure chest, shoulders, triceps. You know. Wow. Okay. That's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention was what was I going to say? When I started doing the international competitions, there was no funding or anything, but my employer, he found out at what level I was at, so he offered to sponsor me, and that's how I got the international sort of break.
Oh, wow.
He sponsored me for every competition I went to abroad.
I read that actually, because there's a really nice piece in the book, and it's Phil Holden, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so Phil, I mean, this is a great, again, I really love the book, I have to say. And if anyone, I mean, at the end, we'll see, you know, let people know how they can get hold of a copy of the book and things to read, because I'm really enjoying reading it. But it's amazing because Phil, who ran the company, I think that you've been working for what, 37 years now, is it? Or so, or maybe more than that now.
Yeah, a bit more than that.
I think it was 37 when you wrote the book, but maybe that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So probably best part of 40 years, is it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So you've worked for this company for 40 years, and the guy who, I mean, it sounds like he passed away, didn't he, sadly, in 2020?
That's right, yeah.
But he sounds like an amazing guy who basically sponsored you throughout your whole career to go and do all these amazing events and things everywhere you did them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when he first found out what level I was at, I'd been to the World Championships in Sweden, and like I say, it was self-funded then. There was no lottery, and he said, if anything else like this turns up, he says, come and see me. So I did.
Did he regret it after that? He said, oh, he's going over the world lifting heavy stuff.
Well, the best one, able-bodied bench pressing, it was in Australia one year. And I was asking, I thought I might ask local firms like Next or Walkers. And I thought I'll start with Phil Holden. And he said, great. He said, yeah, we'll do it and I'll come with you. So we went to Australia and I got 3 gold medals in the bench pressing. There was
Wow.
one where you heaviest weight you can do. The other one was your own body weight, as many reps as you could do. I think I managed about 40 reps at my body weight. And then there was another one where you put like a weightlifting suit on, which increases your bench press. But everybody that wants to do that sort of competition can, and I won that one as well.
Wow. He sounds like an amazing guy and friend and boss, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was, yeah.
He sounds to me like a clever businessman because he's got an employee for life then, hasn't he? Because you can't leave.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Works both ways then.
Oh, that's brilliant. So the bench press competition. I mean, can you remember your first competition that you did? I mean, was it like a local type thing? Was there such things as that, or was it what was the first ever bench press
I
competition?
can clearly remember it. I went to the gym where I trained in Hinckley, and I saw a sign and it said British Bench Press Championships, and it was in Birmingham. And I said to my training partner, I'm going to have a go. I'm going to have a go at that. So I had a go, and I came third. This is how long ago it was. I came third, but the lad that beat me, Patrick, he was going to the Barcelona Games. And so he said, as soon as I get back, I need to see you. I really want to see you. And that's when I got into the Paralympic sort of movement.
What was the Barcelona? Was that around 1990?
92.
92.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you went, and was that first competition was a disabled bench press?
No, it was able-bodied.
Was it?
It was able-bodied, but there was, as long as you got with bench pressing, as long as you got your feet flat on the floor, your backside on the bench, and your shoulders on the bench, you can do your lift.
Yeah. So and I mean, is this, because I've not really heard of this or been aware of this before, that do you get many disabled lifters going into able-bodied bench press competitions?
No,
or no,
not
you don't?
really, no.
Okay.
I was just thinking about this because that's really, because you had Oscar Pistorius, didn't you, who did a run. He did an event.
Yeah.
It wasn't Olympics, was it, or anything like that? But he did an event on his blades running against people who had legs. But there's a definite difference there, isn't there? Where with bench press, it's like you're technically at a disadvantage if you can't use your leg drive. If your legs are going to touch the floor, that's fine, but you can't actually. You're going to have less. It's more upper body for you than for everybody
That's
else.
right.
So it's kind of in a running race, you could almost see there might be an advantage to having blades or whatever. So it's but this is kind of cut and dried, I suppose. It's just a muscular contraction, isn't it? So
the only advantage I've got, because you're in a weight category, if you see a normal powerlifter, they've got big legs.
yeah.
So if I'm in the 75 kilo class, I'll probably weigh 60 kilos from the waist up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. No, that's excellent. And for things like,
Hopefully people hear this though and it inspires them, because I mean, that'd be great to see in the future, wouldn't it?
yeah. And
But you don't get bench press in the Olympics anymore, though, do you? I suppose.
You do, I suppose. You do get powerlifting in the Paralympics, don't you? But there's no power in the regular Olympics.
Press, yeah.
So, and what are you like then? My mind just went somewhere there where you said that. I just thought, what are you like at doing things like chin-ups and pull-ups and things like that? Because like you said, you've got a very, very strong upper body and you don't have the kind of like heavy legs kind of weighing you down. Are you good at those kind of exercises as well?
Well, to get onto a chinning bar, it's quite hard. So I normally do pull downs on that. But the one I do is dips.
Okay.
Legs on one bench and my backside on another, and about 30 kilos on my waist.
Okay.
We need to get you on.
With weighted dips.
We need to
Yeah.
recreate Superstars, don't we? And see if you can beat Brian Jacks.
Yeah.
See, I
Yeah.
can say that because I know Pete will get that because he's of that age, isn't he? Because like, there'll be like people listening go, what the... We couldn't have talked to Paddy Haynes about that. He'd be like, what the hell's Superstars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was it's funny actually you say that. I was doing some dips the other day. I've been doing dips are in my program at the moment, and I put a video up, and someone that I know from the gym put up, oh, just like Brian Jacks. And I said, you're showing your age with that reference, you know.
Yeah.
Superstars was filmed just up the road from here as well. And I think it's Kelston Manor just up the road. I think that's where, I might be wrong, but I think that's where it was filmed. That's what Sean told me anyway. So it's her fault if it's wrong.
And to mention something else actually from that era that we spoke about recently on the podcast, I know that you met kind of early on, you met Jeff Capes, didn't you?
Well, actually, that's not that long ago.
Oh, okay.
He's passed away, isn't it? Was it this year or last year?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
End of last year, yeah.
through the disabled strongman, I've met somebody that lives at Stanford, and Jeff Capes taught at the same gym. So we went into this gym, and he was there teaching people. But his knowledge is incredible.
Yeah.
Deadlifting. I mean, we do a discipline called seated deadlift, and he said, "Which bar are you using?" And you know, we thought a barbell's a barbell, and he said, "No, try it with this one. It's got a bit more spring in it." You know, it was just unbelievable.
But was he also like? I think I might be wrong. I might be getting my dates confused, but there was like a sports center or something that opened like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he was at the opening of it as well. So was that that was a long time ago, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was. I had a part-time job then because I was still at school.
Oh, well, so we are going back a few years. Yeah,
well.
Oh, sorry, Pete. Sorry.
It was nice. I think it was 79. 79, yeah. Anyway, this leisure centre opened, and he was brought into the opening ceremony for it.
And I think you said he'd already been to like the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics then, and he was already kind of yeah. Wow. So how did the transition happen from so you were doing the bench press competitions and you I mean, did you win your 4 bench press world championships and then move into strongman, or did they kind of overlap?
I thought, well, I've got as far as I can go with this, and the strongman happened by accident. I heard it on the radio, advertised on the radio, so I went to watch, and I knew about 3 of the guys in it from the bench pressing days. So that's when we got into, you know, I was invited to compete at Britain's Strongest Man, and it just progressed from there. I competed at that a couple of times. And then there was a time we were asked to demonstrate the sport in Norway. Was it Norway? Yeah, it was Norway. So we all got in this minibus and went across to Norway, and we were demonstrating the sport to Europeans. Now, at the end of the 2 days demonstrating, I came 3rd. And the organisers came up to me and they said, "Oh, congratulations, you've qualified for the world's strongest disabled man." And I didn't even know it was a qualifier. I said, "What's done?" I just thought it was a jolly.
Oh, Phil's going to be happy with that, isn't he? I've got to go home and tell it. Was it Phil? I've got to go home and tell him. Arm and a leg. How many arms and legs did this fella have?
So how did you find going from a sport like bench press, which obviously you're specializing and you're focused on one exercise and getting very, very good at that one exercise, to then disabled strongman, where most competitions you're doing, I don't know, maybe 5 events or so, and they're very varied. And like you mentioned, the seated deadlift, and there's overhead pressing, and there's maybe carries and pulling and that sort of thing. How did you find that? Did you like the variety that it gave you? You know.
Yeah. Well, the bench pressing helps with certain disciplines you have to do. There's one called the forward hold, where they just give you a stupid weight and you have to hold it in front of you till you drop. And because that's all shoulders, which my shoulders are good from bench pressing. I don't like being beat at that one, should I say? And then there's one like the seated deadlift, which I just don't like.
Okay, okay. What about your overhead pressing? What's that like?
Yeah, that's fine. Again, it's
fine.
shoulders, you see, so it's upper body strength. And you see it, well, you're strapped into a bench because the safety is taken very seriously. So they strap you into a bench, and yeah, the overhead press or the dumbbell press, that's one of my favourites as well.
So what were where did you go to win your 4 kind of world's strongest disabled man titles? What countries did you go to to do each of those?
Well, the first one was in London. And then the second one was, well, there's been London, Norway, Canada, and during COVID, that was quite interesting. During COVID, we all still competed, but we all obviously had to stay in our own countries, and the results were all sent to the judges, and they had to sort out who'd won, and eventually it was me.
Okay. Okay. And then, so 4 times world's bench press champion, 4 times world's strongest disabled man. And I think that was like that was 17, 18, 19 and 20, I think. So that's 4 years in a row you won that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then when did the Arnolds happen? Was that after those, or was that in the middle of that somewhere?
It was in the middle. You had to get to a certain standard at the disabled strongman to be invited to the Arnold. So yeah, I've been to a couple of those.
And that was out in, like you say, Ohio in the States as well. She'd been out there
Yeah.
competing as well. Yeah. And when was it you went to Australia? Was that for a bench one, was it?
That was bench press. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
earlier on. That was 2006. That was.
Yeah. Wow, so you had a hell of like you say, Phil Holden's travel budget was,
Yeah.
and then I mean you've also, I mean you've done all of this, but then you also did some great stuff with the hand bike as well, didn't you? I think is that correct? Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I like to keep as fit as I can. So I've got this hand bike, and it works. For a start off, it works your shoulders in the ways that barbell doesn't, because you like rotating your shoulders as opposed to just pressing. So it helps in that way, but it keeps you fit, keeps your weight down, and yeah, we did quite a lot on the bike, and then we did a couple of charity events. The nearest coastal point to Leicester is Skegness, and so somebody came up with the idea of cycling to Skegness.
Okay.
This is for spinal research, because there's people worse off than myself, so I like to do a bit for them. So we did Leicester to Skegness on a hand bike.
And how far is that?
I think it's about 94 miles, something like that.
Okay. And you're so just to explain, so you're sat kind of in a bike fairly low down, aren't you? Kind of almost
that's right.
reclined.
And it's just using your arms and shoulders.
So you've almost got like pedals, but that you hold on to, and you're turning, and that's turning a chain, and that's moving you forwards. Yeah. Yeah. And you did 94 miles, did you say, in that?
Yes. I think it was something like that. Yeah.
Okay. How long did that take?
All day. So I think we got there about 3:30, 4 o'clock time.
Okay. And there must be a huge amount of, did you get a huge amount of like burn in the, like lactic acid and burn, or did you just, once you're going, you're spinning and you're kind of getting a bit of momentum and you just, I don't know.
That's right. You get your momentum, and it's sort of the flattest part of the country anyway, but yeah, it's just something ridiculous. Yeah. You knew when you'd done it.
And I take it you didn't have to turn around and go back again, did you?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Okay. And in terms of your, what you've done, and like I said, you've got in the book, there's a list of your kind of achievements from 1991 through to 2022, which is about 31 years of you know, and you've got all these achievements in there that you've done, athletic and strength endeavors and things.
Yeah.
I mean, and you mentioned charity work as well, because I know you've raised, you know, thousands of pounds for charity. And does that tend to be, like you said, spinal research and things like that for
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you, I mean, have you ever kind of met or worked with anyone else or done talks or anything for people maybe who've got, you know, spina bifida or other spinal
No, I haven't. I've done a couple of. I did a talk at a school. Was it last year, the year before? I was talking about my book and about what, you know, living life with a disability.
Hmm. And do you find, I mean, this was a question I kind of almost posed at the start, which I don't know how it, do you see, has participation increased and has attitude towards disability changed since the, you know, when you were growing up, maybe in the 70s, I suppose?
Yeah.
Are things better now or not? I don't want to assume that they are because it's not an experience I've lived, but you know,
I,
how do you see things?
I think they are. I mean, sports wise, definitely. And I think 92 Olympics was that Tanny Gray sort of time. She changed everything really to me.
Mm,
Because everybody knows who she is, and the disability sport from just that Olympics has come on, and
mm,
it's just accepted a lot more now.
mm. And do you think in wider society as well, or I mean,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
yeah, okay. And what do you do now? You're kind of, you're still working, obviously, like you said. I think you have Fridays off now, don't you? That's why we're talking on a
yeah,
Friday.
yeah.
But you're still working, obviously for the same company
I
for
am.
Phil
Yeah,
Hopkins, yeah, sort of 40 years later, and you do Monday to Thursday. What does your training look like now at 61 years of age? Are you still training regularly at the
yeah.
moment? Yeah.
I train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Sundays. Sundays I try and practice some of the events that you think will be coming up. And then in between, well, when the weather's half decent, I'll do a bit of cycling. So most days I'm doing something.
It's incredible, really. That sounds like you, Pete. Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
walking the rest of it.
And
Yeah.
walking the rest of it. So I mean, that's great. I mean, because so and you mentioned events that might be coming up. So I take it you're still competing and you've got plans to compete this year, have you?
Yeah. We're going to England's Strongest. I think that's at the end of May. And then we've got Britain's Strongest, and the World's is at the NEC this year. So everybody we're trying to compete in that and
Mm,
qualify and compete.
excellent. And how are you feeling in your training at the moment? I mean, because I'd imagine at 61, I don't want to assume, but I mean, we've been to a couple of the Britain's events. Are you one of the older ones there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always try to be polite. I think you're probably there's not that many. Is there anyone older than you
There
competing?
was
There's
there was the
Rick, who's I've trained with quite a lot. He's a bit older than me, but with weightlifting, I mean, an age once you get to, I mean, the young lads are still developing, so they're not as strong as us, but we're just developing different techniques. Better ways to lift, if you like.
Mm.
I think I spoke to Rick at Brunel. Is he the guy who
Rick
rode
Long,
his
Rick Long's
motorbike into
name
a
is.
wall? Was that Rick
Oh,
on the Isle of Man? He was
That's
in it.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I asked him what happened, and he said,
oh yes, yes, I remember
I
Rick.
crashed my motorbike into a wall at like 200 miles an hour," and I was like, "That's going to do it, isn't it?" Yeah,
Yeah,
it was pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, he was an anaesthetist, I think he said he was before that. Yeah, but he
Mm.
was an interesting fella because he wasn't
Yeah.
there the year before, was he? So we met him last year when you weren't there. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, the year before he wasn't there.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because like you say, strength is something similar to endurance. Actually, you can continue getting stronger, or like you say, refining technique as well.
Yeah.
as you get older, can't you? You know, there's
Yeah.
kind of, you know, and also endurance stuff. You can continue to actually get quite good at endurance stuff. It tends to be more and it's not saying you can't maintain or get better, but naturally people tend to lose like sort of maybe speed and agility, you know, and that quickness as they get a bit older. But actual strength and power, you know, strength people can build and maintain. So,
Yeah.
I mean, are you feeling? I mean, obviously, you know, you're not specializing in bench press anymore, but are you feeling kind of strong, or are you noticing? I mean, just as a general thing for general public as well, are you noticing that your is your strength diminishing as you get older, or do you feel you're maintaining it fairly well?
No, I'm maintaining it. And like I say, with the technique, something happened at what was the last competition I was in? I was. Have you seen the one where we have to pull a sledge?
Yeah, yeah.
So you're sitting down, you're pulling the sledge towards you, and I normally just reach forward and hold the rope and use my back. Now, at the last competition, I knew I was running out of time, so I kept my back still and I was just using my arms.
Mm.
And again, just change the technique slightly. And one of the judges came up to me afterwards. He shouldn't have done, but he said, "You're a lot faster with the second technique." So that's what I'm working on at the minute.
Mm.
So there's certain things you can do. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's more speed.
Yeah. Yeah, because I suppose actually just doing like an arm over arm pull and just
Yeah,
using your arms is quicker than, you know, you kind of otherwise you kind of reach forward, lean forwards, then pull your whole body back, don't you? And then you have to reach forwards, pull the whole
yeah,
body back. So if you're strong enough in the arms to do it that way that you did, it's probably a quicker technique, isn't it?
yeah. It's quicker, yeah. But you've, I like to use my back because it's you get a more motion. You can
Mm,
move the sledge further, and
mm,
then when you realise you're running out of time, you switch to the other technique.
mm. No, that's great.
No secrets away here.
I was going to say,
Hope none of the competitors, none of your competitors are listening. Yeah.
they'll,
Oh,
they'll all
that's
have, they'll all be getting hand bikes as well, because that's got to help with that as well.
No, no, no. Oh no, it doesn't help at all.
All right, okay, fair enough.
oh,
What do
this
I
is
know?
great. This is really good. So I suppose, Pete, if people want to read your book, which I would highly recommend, I'm holding it up again. I know you can't see me holding it up, but
Yeah.
how do people how to get hold of a copy of your book?
Well, they can email me. It's peter.linnett
Yeah.
at sky.com.
Okay, so it's Peter dot
Yeah.
Linnett, which is
Dot Linnett,
yeah,
Linnett
yeah,
at sky.com.
excellent, brilliant. It
And
is a really good book. It's really
yeah,
it's inspiring. You know, it's fascinating. And
it's 15, sorry,
yeah,
it's
go on.
£15 and I donate that to spinal research anyway.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, no, that's great. And then in terms of sort of social media and things like that, often we have people on and then people want to kind of follow them and see what they're up to. Are you very active on social media or not particularly?
I'm only on, I do Facebook every now and again.
Yeah. So if people
Um,
just search for Pete Linnett on there, because I know we're friends on there, but
yeah,
you just search for Pete Linnett on there and then they'll find you on there, yeah.
yeah,
Brilliant. And then hopefully we might see you because I think that I don't know if there's a date yet, but I think the Britain's disabled this year is going to be back at Brunel University, having spoke to Gary recently. So you saying you hopefully be at that one?
we'll see. I think it's clashing with a holiday, to be honest, but we'll see. I'm doing England's strongest.
Because if
And
you do
then,
England's, then you can qualify for the other ones you want to do anyway, can you?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. Excellent. And England's you said is May time, did you?
Yeah, end of May.
Excellent. And where will that one be held this year? Do you know where England's is?
I think it's in Bolton.
Oh,
That's right.
okay.
University.
Okay. Well, I hope all goes well with training for that, and everything else this year. You know, that would be fantastic. No, really interesting speech to you. And I had no idea about the, you know, like you say, the bench press. It was really interesting talking to you about that
Yeah.
and the way that, you know, you can take part in the able body comps as well. And I mean, like you say, lifting double body weight on a bench press pretty much in the under, I think you said in the under 75 kilo category, lifting 147.5 kilos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
It's
Absolutely brilliant.
difficult to do because you're dieting and trying to lift heavy weights as well, and the two don't go together.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. No, that's fantastic. As we wrap up, Pete, anything you'd like to add, or any questions or anything, or?
No, I just love it that, you know, we've like been to these places where, you know, like Brunel University last year, and then Chard, and you don't realize who you're in a room with. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a room with people and it's just like everyone's just getting along with it and lifting heavy stuff and all that, and you don't realize where they've been and what they've done. And I just think it's fascinating, and I just love it. I love getting involved in things like that because, like, you know, you're just surrounded by people who like make you want to do better. So thank you.
Yeah. And I take it that kind of Julia, your wife, and Josh and Harry are very, very proud of you, are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's an individual sport. That's the other thing. But it's not an individual sport because there's so many people involved for the success. I mean, like I've mentioned work. Julia puts up with I won't say dieting, it's correct eating now. So, and then the support from Josh and Harry, and, you know, your training partners are a massive part of it in the gym. There's a lot of things I couldn't do without, you know, my training partners. Yeah,
excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Pete, today on your day off as well. And
okay.
All the best for going forward, and for the England's strongest man in Bolton in May. I hope all goes well. We'll be certainly watching out for that and seeing how you do there, and I'm sure we'll cross paths down the line. And I highly recommend, like I say, Pete's book, to have a read of that. And like you said, the money from that goes to spinal research as well, which is amazing. So thank you everybody for listening and or watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, and share this episode. I mean, this is, from almost being written off, from birth, as a child, and to see and hear what Pete has done with his life and traveled the world, and all these achievements, it should be enough. Well, it is enough, and it should be enough to inspire every single one of us, me and Pete included. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Pete.
Thank you.
Excellent. And we will see you. In fact, actually, there's a little connection between this episode and the next one that we're doing, because next week we will be joined on episode 241 with Mr. Andrew Burton from Texas in USA, who is the world's strongest firefighter. And he just won at the Arnold's 2 weeks ago, I think it was. He won the Pro-Am strongman out there. And he is now into will be moving into the kind of the biggest show, if you like, next year, against the kind of Mitchell Hoopers and the Hafthor Bjornsons and all the rest of it. And Andrew's someone I spent time with out in Iceland recently with another friend of Pete's, Mr. Magnus van Magnusson, who you know very well, Pete, don't you? He does. He's smiling. He knows. He does. Yeah. We didn't talk about that. But yeah, so we're back next week for episode 241. With Andrew Burton from Texas in the USA. Okay, so we'll speak to you then. Until then, thank you very much, Pete Linnett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peter Lant.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.